Wimbledon 2005 final. Venus Williams versus Lindsay Davenport. A final for the ages. What unfolded that day wasn't just a tennis match. It was a test of endurance, heart, and legacy between two great players. Venus Williams, already a two-time Wimbledon champion, came in as the 14th seed. Many had written her off, saying her best years were behind her. Injuries and inconsistent results had plagued her in recent seasons, and she hadn't won a Grand Slam title since 2001. Lindsay Davenport, on the other hand, was the world number one, calm, powerful, and consistent. She was having one of her best years and looked ready to win her second Wimbledon title. From the very first ball, it was clear this would not be an ordinary final. Both players came out swinging, trading brilliant shots, and it felt like it could go either way. Davenport took the first set 6-4 with controlled aggression and her trademark flat ground strokes. Her serve was clicking, and she moved Venus around the court, exposing her recent struggles with footwork. But Venus was not going anywhere. In the second set, Davenport broke early again. At 4-2, she seemed in total control. But Venus dug in, raising her level and chasing down every shot with the speed and determination that once made her the most feared athlete on the tour. She broke back, gained momentum, and forced a tiebreak, which she dominated, 7-4. With one set apiece, the match was hanging in the balance. And what came next was one of the most gripping and intense final sets in Wimbledon history. Davenport broke to go up 4-2 and even served for the match at 6-5. On match point, Venus hit a lunging backhand, passing shot that barely clipped the sideline. It was a shot that changed the course of the match. The crowd was on its feet, witnessing something special. Davenport began to cramp, her movement slowing. Venus, sensing her opportunity, surged forward. She held serve, broke Davenport one last time, and at 9-7 sealed the win with an ace. Venus collapsed to the grass, tears mixing with joy and exhaustion. It was her third Wimbledon title, and one of the most unforgettable finals ever played. At 2 hours and 45 minutes, it became the longest women's final in Wimbledon history, and one of the greatest Grand Slam finals of all time. Australian Open 2022 final. Medvedev versus Nadal, Miracle in Melbourne, considered the best match of the 2022 season. Rafael Nadal, the 6th seed, was chasing history. With a win, he would become the first man to claim 21 Grand Slam titles, breaking the three-way tie with Federer and Djokovic. Across the net stood Daniil Medvedev, the 2nd seed, young, sharp, and arguably the best hardcourt player in the world at the time. And for the first two sets, it looked like Medvedev would get it done. He was in control, dominating with depth, angles, and relentless pace. Nadal, battling the heat and the weight of history, dropped the first two sets 2-6, 6-7. The crowd watched in stunned silence. But Rafa wasn't done. He dug in. He started moving better. His forehand began to bite. Slowly, point by point, he dragged himself back into the match. He won the third set, then the fourth. The belief was back, and the energy in the stadium began to shift. In the fifth, it became a war of nerves and endurance. At 5-5, Nadal broke through. Then, he served it out. After more than 5 hours, he completed one of the greatest comebacks in tennis history. This wasn't just any win, it was a statement. Terms like miracle or sensation are often thrown around in sports. But what happened in Melbourne truly bordered on one. Not just because Nadal came back from 2 sets down against an elite opponent, but because, just 6 weeks prior, he wasn't even sure he could compete again. Nadal suffers from Müller-Weiss syndrome, a rare and degenerative foot condition that's plagued him since 2005. The injury flared up again in 2021, forcing him to shut down his season in August. At 35, and with 18 months of physical struggles behind him, retirement was a very real possibility. That's what made this win so extraordinary. After battling pain, doubt, and time itself, Nadal rose again. His victory at the 2022 Australian Open was a powerful reminder of his resilience, grit, and heart. He wasn't favored to win, but he did. French Open, 1984, final. Even Lendl versus John McEnroe, The 1984 French Open final was expected to be John McEnroe's moment. He had been playing some of the best tennis of his career that year. Confident, precise, and in full control of his game. Across the net stood Ivan Lendl, calm, focused, and unshakable. He was already considered one of the top players in the world, but there was one thing missing from his resume: a Grand Slam title. This was his fourth major final, and many doubted whether he could finally break through. From the very start, McEnroe looked sharp. He took the first set 6-3 with a mix of aggressive net play and delicate touch shots. He followed that up with a commanding 6-2 second set, moving Lendl around and keeping him off balance with his variety and courtcraft. He was just one set away from the title. For many watching, it felt like a done deal. But then, the match took a turn. In the third set, McEnroe went up 4-2 and looked in control, but a dispute with the cameraman seemed to throw him off. His concentration slipped. Lendl, staying calm, saw his chance. He broke back, then kept applying pressure. With steady ground strokes and relentless consistency, Lendl took the third set 6-4. The match was no longer one-sided. In the fourth, the tension grew. McEnroe started missing more. Lendl stayed patient, forcing long rallies and capitalizing on mistakes. He edged the set 7-5, 2 sets all, a fifth set, to decide it all. By now, Lendl had all the momentum. His confidence was rising, while McEnroe was visibly frustrated. Lendl broke serve early and held his lead, refusing to let McEnroe back in. It was a thrilling fifth set, but in the end, even Lendl prevailed 7-5. After completing the incredible comeback, he dropped to the clay as a Grand Slam champion for the first time. US Open 1991 semifinal, Salesh versus Capriati, a semifinal that felt like a final. It was a high-stakes clash between two teenage phenoms, both powerful, fearless, and already redefining the women's game. Monica Seles was the world number one. At just 17, she had already won a number of Grand Slam titles. Known for her two-handed power off both sides and her trademark grunt, she was aggressive, relentless, and nearly unbeatable. On the other hand, Jennifer Capriati, just 15 years old, was one of the brightest rising stars in tennis. Her game was built on raw athleticism, explosive forehands, and a surprising level of maturity for her age. In the lead up to the semifinals, she had taken out several top players, and the buzz around her was growing fast. The atmosphere inside the stadium was electric. Fans were split, torn between the established champion and the rising hometown star. The match started with a bang. Both players came out swinging, trading baseline bombs and holding nothing back. Salesh took the first set, 6-3, showing why she was at the top of the game, but Capriati didn't fold. In the second set, she raised her level, matching Salesh shot for shot and breaking at just the right time to take it 6-3. One set all. Momentum shifting, the third set was a roller coaster. Salesh would go up, Capriati would respond. There were long rallies, deep hitting, and moments of pure guts from both sides. The pressure was immense. Each point felt like a final. Capriati had her chances. She was up 5-3 and served for the match. The crowd roared, sensing a huge upset, but nerves crept in. Salesh, digging deep, broke back. She saved match points. Then she held serve and stayed alive. At 6-6, the final set went to a tiebreak. It was a fitting way to end such a dramatic match. In the tiebreak, Salesh stayed calm. Her shots were just a little deeper, her decisions just a little smarter. She pulled away and sealed the victory. Monica Seles had survived. Jennifer Capriati had come heartbreakingly close, and together, they had delivered one of the greatest US Open matches of the decade. Wimbledon 2001, final, Goran Ivanišević versus Patrick Rafter. Goran Ivanišević, ranked world number 125, wasn't even supposed to be in the 2001 Wimbledon main draw. Battling a lingering shoulder injury and years of inconsistent results, he received a wildcard. It was given more out of respect for his past performances and legacy at Wimbledon than because of any real expectation of a deep run. Ivanišević had been to 3 Wimbledon finals before. He came painfully close, but fell short each time. Big serve, big game, but something always slipped away at the last moment. Many thought his window had closed. This time, he wasn't even seeded. He wasn't expected to make it past the first week, but match after match, Garros kept winning. He served his way through opponents, used the crowd's energy, and rediscovered the belief that had faded in recent years. Standing between him and the title was Patrick Rafter, a two-time US Open champion, known for his graceful serve and volley game and cool, composed presence. He had just beaten Andre Agassi in a classic semi-final and was hoping to win his first Wimbledon title after finishing runner-up the year before. The final took place on a Monday, the first ever People's Monday at Wimbledon, because rain had delayed the match. The stands were packed with everyday fans, not the usual prim and proper center court crowd, and the match delivered a 5-set thriller. Ivanišević took the first set, firing aces and fist-pumping with every point. Rafter responded by taking the second set 6-3, using his variety and touch to break Goran's rhythm. The third set went to Ivanišević as he regained control with his powerful serve. But once again, Rafter answered back, taking the fourth set with calm precision and relentless pressure. 2 sets all, a Wimbledon title to be decided in a final set. The fifth set was pure tension. Each point felt like it could tip the balance. Goran's serve was still firing, but the pressure was mounting. He had been here before, on the edge of glory. At 7-7, he broke Rafter. The crowd exploded. He stepped up to serve for the championship. Then came the nerves. Double faults, missed forehands, 3 championship points came and went. But finally, on his 4th championship point, Rafter missed a passing shot. Ivanišević fell to the grass, arms raised, eyes full of tears. After years of heartbreak, injuries, and doubt, Goran Ivanišević became a Wimbledon champion. He became the first and only male wildcard to win Wimbledon, the lowest ranked man ever to win the tournament. But more than the numbers, it was the story, the redemption, the emotion, the journey that made this one of the most iconic finals the sport has ever seen. US Open 2005 quarterfinal. The 2005 US Open quarterfinal between Andre Agassi and James Blake was a 5-set thriller, a battle of experience and youth, of grit and firepower, and it became one of the most memorable night matches in US Open history. In the twilight of his career, Andre Agassi was chasing one last Grand Slam title before walking away from the game he had helped shape for 2 decades. His movement wasn't what it used to be, but his mind, timing, and return game were still world-class. His opponent, James Blake, was on the rise. The American had recently come back from a devastating year, dealing with injury, illness, and the loss of his father. But now, he was healthy, confident, and playing fearless tennis. With his explosive forehand and athleticism, Blake had taken out Rafael Nadal earlier in the tournament and was playing some of the best tennis of his life. Blake stormed through the first 2 sets, 6-3, 6-3. He was dictating rallies, painting lines, and overpowering Agassi. The crowd was stunned. Agassi looked flat, unsure, and suddenly very close to the end. But then, the tide turned. Agassi, as he had done so many times before, found another gear. He slowed the pace, extended rallies, and started making Blake hit one extra shot. The third set went to Agassi. The momentum had shifted. In the fourth, it became a chess match. Agassi held firm and stayed steady while Blake's early fire began to cool. A couple of errors, a couple of missed chances. Agassi pounced and took the set again. The fifth set was electric. Both players dug in, refusing to give an inch. The level was high, the rallies intense, the crowd fully locked in. At 6-6, it went to a deciding tiebreak. Agassi took an early lead, but Blake fought back. At 7-6, Agassi had match point. A final rally, full of tension and heart. Blake missed just wide. Game, set, and match. Andre Agassi. Later, Agassi would call it one of the best nights of my life. US Open, 2003, semifinal, Henin versus Capriati. The 2003 US Open semifinal between Justine Henin and Jennifer Capriati wasn't just a battle. It was a war of willpower. A night of drama, controversy, and exhaustion. By the end of it, neither player had anything left. And yet, the story it told would live on in tennis history. Under the lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium, they played one of the most grueling matches the tournament had ever seen. The first set went to Capriati, 6-4. She was aggressive and confident, feeding off the energy of the crowd. Henin looked a step slow, her timing slightly off. But in the second set, Henin adjusted. She slowed the pace, changed angles, and used her variety to frustrate Capriati. She won the set and leveled the match. Then came the third. And it was chaos. Capriati broke early and had multiple chances to serve out the match. She held 2 match points. But Henin wouldn't go away. Fighting through cramps and fatigue, she somehow found the focus to survive. One rally at a time, one backhand pass at a time. The tension was overwhelming. The New York crowd was loud, pulling hard for Capriati. And then came the controversy. Several line calls went against Capriati, which became a controversy. Capriati shook her head in disbelief. It only added to the heartbreak. Henin, barely able to move between points, somehow kept finding shots when it mattered most. The third set stretched longer and longer, deep into the night. Finally, for more than 4 hours, Henin won the deciding set, 7-6 in a tiebreak. Capriati stood stunned, knowing how close she had come. It was a match defined not just by shot making, but by grit and nerves. Wimbledon 2009 Final. Roger Federer versus Andy Roddick. The 2009 Wimbledon Final was supposed to be a celebration. Roger Federer had the chance to win a record-breaking 15th Grand Slam title, passing Pete Sampras. But across the net stood Andy Roddick, determined, locked in, and ready to spoil the party. Roddick had lost 2 Wimbledon finals to Federer before, but this time felt different. He was serving bigger, moving better, and playing with a quiet belief. The world expected Federer to win, but Roddick came out sharp, taking the first set. Federer responded by taking the second set in a tense tiebreak. He then claimed the third the same way, barely edging out Roddick again. But Andy didn't flinch. In the fourth set, he held firm, kept attacking, and forced a deciding set. What followed was a marathon. Neither man would break. Roddick kept holding serve, digging deep into reserves of strength and willpower. Federer matched him, ace for ace, shot for shot. The games kept coming. 10-10, 12-12, 14-14. Still, no breaks. It became the longest fifth set in Wimbledon final history. And still, Roddick didn't blink. But at 15-14, Federer finally broke. After more than 4 hours of play, he had done it. 16-14 in the fifth. 15 Grand Slam titles. A moment etched in tennis history. Roger raised his arms in relief. Wimbledon 2014 final. Djokovic versus Federer. Novak Djokovic was hungry to win back Wimbledon and reclaim the world #1 ranking. Roger Federer, at 32, was chasing a record-breaking 8th Wimbledon title. The final delivered everything. Both came out sharp, trading powerful shots that led to a first-set tiebreak. Federer edged it, taking the early lead, but Novak responded. In the second set, he raised his level, painting lines, serving with precision, and staying steady under pressure. He took the set and evened the match. The third was a battle of wills. Djokovic edged it and looked poised to close things out in the fourth. He served for the match at 5-3. But Federer wasn't done. He fought back and won the next games. Center court erupted as he stole the set 7-5. The tide had turned and the atmosphere was electric. A deciding fifth set would settle it. They went toe-to-toe, holding serve, refusing to blink. The tension was unbearable. But at 5-4, Djokovic found his moment. He broke Federer one last time. Novak dropped to the grass, arms outstretched, overwhelmed by the moment. He was Wimbledon champion once again. It was a classic. A 5-set battle between two all-time greats. Another unforgettable chapter in the Federer-Djokovic rivalry. French Open 2025 Final. Carlos Alcaraz versus Jannik Sinner. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner had long been seen as the future of tennis. The 2025 French Open Final was the first time they had met in a Grand Slam final, and the tennis world knew this was just the beginning of a long rivalry. Sinner came out strong, taking the first 2 sets with calm precision and relentless baseline play. Alcaraz looked on the ropes, but like all great champions, he dug deep. He rallied to take the 3rd set 6-4, then held his nerve to win a tense 4th set tiebreak. The 5th set was unforgettable. Both players refused to back down. They traded breaks, held serve, and pushed each other to the limit. It all came down to a match tiebreak. Alcaraz surged ahead, fearless and free. He sealed it 10-2 in the tiebreak, completing a remarkable comeback after 5 hours and 29 minutes on court. It was the longest final in Roland Garros history, and one of the greatest. Carlos Alcaraz had defended his title. But more than that, the torch had officially passed to the next generation. Alcaraz and Sinner had announced to the world that the future of men's tennis is in very good hands. So, what do you think? What's the greatest match in tennis history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and until next time.